Wonder Man's creation by Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Don Heck introduced one compelling new character whose origins were rooted in themes of redemption, sacrifice, and moral ambiguity, with complex arc that would continue to unfold in the subsequent Marvel Comics universe. And the poor guy has one of the shittiest lives I've ever read about. Let's learn about Wonder Man. Nerds, and welcome back to Comics and Cosmetics. I'm your host, DanielleSoncasie, licensed cosmetologist and registered super nerd, and today we are talking about one of the most complex, complicated characters in all of Marvel Comics that really not that many people know about him. And seriously, he has the shittiest life of almost any character I've read about. And look, there's a lot to get into, so we need to get started right away. Making his introduction in Avengers number 9 in 1964, Wonder Man is a Marvel Comics character created by Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Don Heck. He was initially introduced as Simon Williams, who became a supervillain at the kind of control of Baron Zemo and the Masters of Evil. However, as the story progressed, Wonder Man experienced a profound change of heart and ultimately sacrificed himself to save the Avengers, proving himself to be a true hero. Despite his apparent demise, Wonder Man's story was far from over. So as I said, Wonder Man made his first appearance in October of 1964 in Avengers number 9. This landmark issue was written by Stan Lee and artwork by Don Heck. Now, we don't find out the stuff about his childhood until later issues, but I'm just going to tell you about it anyway, because if I try to tell this story outside of chronological order, it will make my brain melt, because just like comic books do so many times, they go back and they retcon and change things or add things. With Wonder Man, it's mostly adding things, and let me tell you something. My brain almost melted just putting this together. So I'll admit, I didn't know a whole heap of the bunch about Wonder Man before I started doing my research. So, we're just going to do this as chronologically as best as I can, just to try to keep everyone sane. Okay? Simon Williams and his brother Eric Williams were the sons of wealthy parents Sanford and Martha Williams. Sanford was an industrialist and owner of a very successful munitions plant. This munitions plant was called Williams Innovation. Sanford was not a nice dad. He was very hard, punishing, and very cruel. He was prone to very rough physical punishments. We're not just talking simple spanking here. No, not for Sanford. When the oldest, Eric, was born, Sanford made it very clear to his wife, Martha, that it was up to Sanford to raise his son. So she did nothing. Just checking. So he commanded to his wife, Martha, that he would be raising Eric in his own tough, strict, and cruel ways. But however hard he was on Eric, he could never control him. And his ways didn't exactly seem to work or benefit anyone, because Eric was growing up to be a little sociopath, often torturing the family cat for giggles, and his dad just completely ignoring the behavior. When Simon was born, years later, Martha refused to let Sanford do the same thing to him. Finally, Martha refused to let Sanford repeat those same mistakes and insisted on raising Simon her way. All this did was just reinforce to little Eric that he'd been born bad and wasn't worthy of that kind of love, affection, and attention. Martha even told Simon that Eric was evil. And because Sanford was useless and she herself was weak, it was up to Simon to stop Eric if he were to commit any evil deeds Thus, the burden of protecting the family name, so his father and the rest of the family didn't feel shame, fell on a very young, tender-hearted Simon. Despite, however, how hard the boys would try, nothing they could do ever got their father's affection or approval. While both boys were athletic, Eric leaned more into sports, while Simon was more studious and introverted. It's even said that he would rather read a book than eat. Well, once, while Eric was playing with some chemicals in the garage, he actually caught the house on fire and burned it down with his father, Sanford, inside. Whoops. Simon, of course, because of how he was raised, blamed himself that he was unable to stop his brother from his sociopathic behavior and could never effectively get his criminal tendencies under control. And Eric harbored deep-seated jealousy and resentment towards his little brother for all the love, attention, and affection he got that Eric never did. He felt overshadowed by his brother's success and popularity and, well, charisma. Eric didn't have any of those things. Simon had it in abundance. Simon seemed to effortlessly excel in so many different fields, while Eric truly struggled to find his own identity and purpose. As they grew older, it's revealed that Sanford actually wanted Eric to take over the company, but Eric never wanted it. Therefore, Simon inherits Williams Innovations and starts running it himself. Nevertheless, Simon was not a businessman. He was a brilliant scientist, but not good at running a business. And it didn't help that at the same time, Stark Industries really starts coming onto the field and knocking things out of the park. It caused a lot of financial hardship for Williams Innovations, and the business started to fail. Eric actually suggests to Simon that he embezzle, since, the business is failing anyway. How about you just embezzle that money into my business? How about that? Invest in my business. No one will know. We'll blame it on failure. Well, what he didn't really tell his brother that it was basically an illegal racketeering scheme with Magia ties. And remember, Magia is mafia in the Marvel world. So his brother was off being a criminal with the mafia and tells him, hey, you should totally embezzle your business's money into my illegal racketeering with the mafia. And Simon's like, okay, sure. What could go wrong?
Disney and Kathleen Kennedy are gonna get you!